Good morning. Looks like I am live, so hopefully everyone is doing well. We're coming up on Thanksgiving next week, and so I was thinking about some of the things that my kids have been interested in over the years and how we made the most of that, during holiday times and leveling up their history credits. Um, a lot of our teens by high school level are using a textbook for a lot of their subjects, and history is one of them. And that is a good way to earn a credit. You know when you start, and you know when you're finished. And so history textbooks are, perfectly fine. And there's so many different kinds that it can fit just about any need as far as history. But a lot of times our teens will have a special interest that they want to look into, and it's like why do I do that? It doesn't matter. It's not going to earn me any credit. So let me just say, hey, yes, it can earn you some credit. So let's talk about leveling up. So what we're talking about with leveling up is you again, there's not one right way to homeschool high school, but if you want to on your transcripts, you can handle it like a lot of young people do in their high schools do if they're in a traditional school setting. So a lot of them their transcripts will have the level of academic rigor that they are doing their coursework at. So anyway, it just now says that I just now went live. But anyway, okay. Well, if I just went live, we're talking about leveling up a history credit today. So anyway, if a teen has an interest beyond the textbook, they can level up their transcript credit, and then it makes their work worthwhile. As far as I'm spending all this time on something I'm interested in. So let me give you some examples. So let's say you're doing American history, and you've got your textbook that you're using for American history, and it's fine. But it's Thanksgiving time, and you want to, review the story of Thanksgiving, and you want to really lean into some more studies about, the history of Thanksgiving. Or, right now it's November, and so that's Native American Heritage Month, and maybe you want to do an extra unit study about Native American, influences in the cultures and things like that. Which, by the way, we're going to on Monday, Lord willing, have a post with an easy unit study that you can do with your high schoolers if they're interested in that kind of thing. So, just like little value added for the teens if they are wanting to explore that. So, anyway. So there's some extra things you guys want to lean into. So here's a way to level up that rigor, to show it on the transcript, just like the traditional schools do. So if you were leveling up, if you're showing the level of rigor on a transcript, you can do that in various ways. The way we have done this with our kids is we will have on the transcript the name of the course, and then for core courses, so like language arts, math, science, social studies, and sometimes specialty areas that they're really, really devoting some time to, we will note level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 next to that credit. So, there's different ways different schools do that. Sometimes they call it phases. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not a standardized thing. We call it levels. So a level 3 is what a lot of high school textbooks are. So that's what they would call a college prep level. So, your college prep student is going to be working with that, and it gets them used to a kind of reading that will be similar to college. So that's a good thing. A level 2 textbook would be, an average high schooler can do it. So it will have, typically fewer words on a page, little larger print, less vocabulary. And so it's, tends to not be as much depth of information because they just can't fit it all in. And that's fine for an average kid, like they're not going to use this as a career. They just need basic information. And so we have posts on this. I can put links in the show notes. But then you can level up, so if you're using a standard textbook, so level 3 college prep, that's nice. But you can also do what we call an advanced, which would be a level 4, where you're doing more work, or a level 5, which we call an honors, which is very similar to AP rigor of work. And note, if you haven't ever run into this yet, you can't call a course an AP course, no matter how rigorous it is, unless it's approved by the College Board's AP team. And so they own that title. Anyway, so if you want to show some more rigor on the transcript, you may as well. And it gives you an opportunity to capture some interesting side studies that you might want to do, an extra unit study or something like that. So let's say you are studying like it's Thanksgiving week coming up. And so maybe you do watch some extra documentaries, History Channel or PBS, or, so someplace where you're studying a little bit more about the Pilgrims. So get some more Pilgrim stories. And then, on History Channel or PBS or, some other links, you watch some documentaries about the Native Americans in those days, and then the interactions of the cultures. And that's some richness of background, and it takes some time to watch documentaries. So what you can do is log those hours. Sometimes we talk about a Carnegie credit, where you're just logging hours of instruction. And so watching documentaries can count for that. Or maybe there's some books that your teen has really been interested in reading. And so they can read it, and it's on a topic, like for Thanksgiving, the Pilgrims, or the history, the religious history of the Pilgrims, or the Native Americans in that area, or the whole Native American culture. I've got that because it's Native American Heritage Month, and it's on my mind. So there are so many books that young people can read. Historical figures, backgrounds of theology, historical fiction, and they can read those books, and that can count as a kind of Carnegie credit. So what we recommend doing is give your teens a chance to do those exploring things, and help them log the hours. So if they're the kind of teen that are good at, you give them a sheet of paper or a calendar and say, write down how much time you spent every day on this. If they're good at that, then let them handle it. If they're still learning those things, sit down with them at the end of the day and say, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? And write that down, what they did and the amount of time that they spent. And when they get to, let's say, they get to like 120 hours. That's a basic Carnegie unit. In some states, it can be as high as 180. So you can check your state website. In our area, we ballpark it at 135 because that's what our states are looking for in this area. When they get to that many hours of extra work that they have done, and they might do it in, spread it out over the year, just, as they're interested, they're exploring these topics. Or they might put everything aside and just cram a bunch of things and log hours, for this one special week, and we're only doing this. But log those down. If they're reading books, then they could read 16 books on the topic, and that would give them approximately 120 to 180 hours. So we just say 16 books is usually pretty close to a Carnegie credit. If they do that, they can generally record that as an American history or whatever the topic is, elective, or they can use that to level up to honors. So they can say, I did an honors credit because I did fully double the work, because that's kind of like AP level of rigor. If you do that, be sure you put a little key on the transcript, a little legend saying how they earned those honors things, so that, it shows off your kid's awesomeness. So, and let's say that they didn't need honors and they just exploring just for fun, but they, over time logged 68 hours, or 60 to 90, according to your state, hours in this area of interest. And that would be an advanced credit, so level 4. And so they may as well, keep a log sheet. Even if you need to keep that log sheet over a couple of years and finally throw it onto a credit, later on, there's not one right way to homeschool. You can do what's best for your kids. Um, so watching documentaries is a way to log hours. Writing a research paper, doing research on a topic. So let's say one of your kids got really interested in William Bradford or Squanto, and really wanted to kind of do an AP or an MLA or Chicago style paper on them, and they read books and search websites and organize their data and write a paper and do a final draft. Log all those hours because they are deeply interacting with the subject, and that's very, very valuable. So let them, log those hours for papers, for field trips. If you guys can have a field trip, that would be to a site that is related. These days, sometimes you can find virtual field trips to, valuable things, especially if it's something in the national park system. They have a lot of virtual field trips that you can do if you can't get out, and or have them read 8 books for that half a credit or a level up to advance. So I know this sounds really complicated, but it's a way to capture. You do not have to do this, but you can capture what your teens are naturally interested in, and then they get the reward on their transcript for what they have done. And the reason why you might want to show this leveling up on the transcript, though, is because it especially for college-bound teens, it shows the ability to explore an interest, to do competitive work, to really do some rigor. And that makes them more college attractive. And for kids who are going to a college that is a little more competitive or a state college, having those higher level courses looks really good. So anyway, so with Thanksgiving coming, if you've got teens that have time and are interested, think about, a book list of things that are around a topic that is really cool to them, and or watch some documentaries. The world of available documentaries is awesome. Or take the whole gang on some field trips, virtual or live. And what you will find is that you can pretty quickly, add up some hours. Other things you can do is, cook, food, do some research and find some food that they would have eaten in whatever time period and location that your teen is interested in. So like if you're doing something related to Thanksgiving, what did they eat that day? And what did the Pilgrims eat? And in general, what were the Native Americans eating? And how did they interact back and forth and, cook some of those things? And or listen to music of that era and, give them a musical experience. And so what you will find is that they are getting whole kinds of richness of things, crafts, like how did they sew clothes in those days and what fashions were the ladies wearing? And, that's, all kinds of ways that teens can explore interests. So anyway, the main thing is whatever they do, if you want to do the leveling up, you gotta document it. You gotta write it down. And then you count your hours. And so if you're adding to a full credit of history, between 60 and 90 hours, according to what your state does, we go for 68 levels from college prep up to the advanced level. And then a full 120 to 180, our area is 135, goes up to an honors credit. And then we always put that on the transcript by the course name and then a legend on how the teens earned that on the transcript. And it is really, really impressive. But the main thing is you're investing in a kid's love. What are they interested in and what do they love learning? All righty. Okay, so I will wrap those things up and put some links in the show notes after a while. And then next week, I will be out of town, but Kim will handle our Facebook Live, and she's got some cool things to talk about. So thanks for being our Seventh Sisters. We love being in community together in our homeschool world. So we will talk to you later.